Like, oop,
Yeah.
this is okay. Like
It's
this.
okay?
No.
Fine. Otherwise, you can pick up one of these.
Okay, I'll. Yeah, the thing is, you have to. The mic. I understand. Yeah. Okay, I'll try. And the weather? You organize the weather for So you're based in Berlin?
Because with address, it doesn't really work. 1 1 2 1 2 1 2. Right. Is it possible? It's just I can sort of see that out of my peripheral sight, and just to lower it a little bit. Okay. It's bent in a certain way. Okay. Okay, good. Right. And 1 2 1 2. He'll turn it on when, yes. Great. Hi. I'm Claire. I'm looking at your Raphael bit. Of course, I don't remember. Fabienne, hi. Hi, hi, hi. So at the beginning, I introduce you and you're going to the podium, and then everybody leaves, and then you come up again for your PowerPoint, yes? And I don't know whether there's a clicker that you're okay with that. Okay, because otherwise I have to, let's see whether the clicker works. So we were, okay. Okay. German efficiency, yes, everything has been thought about here. Okay, excellent. And do you know who the director of the Slovenian Public Employment Services is? Right, yes, indeed. Mitja Bobna, yes. No, fine, excellent. So you'll be in the front seat, in the front here most probably, along with, yes, indeed. Along with Marcus, who is here. There we are. You most probably know him. The Marcus Löbert of the German Federal Ministries. He's that gentleman standing there to the right. Okay. Yes, they're all part of the team. Okay, good. Looks good. You too. Okay. Hello, Mr. Super. Great. I shall be introducing you. Hi, Valeria. It is a bit cold, isn't it? And we're all dressed for summer. Yes, absolutely. Yes. Yes. Mm-hmm. 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 Okay, so it's it won't move. Anyway, everybody's here, so we'll just wait for a sign from Paul. Yeah, I'll stand over there. You stand there, and for the Slido questions, we can either be screen or behind us, ideally. Mm-hmm. Welcome to everyone. Welcome to us. it's always very, I don't know whether I'm picked up here. There's never a clock in these rooms, so that's always the first thing I ask. But I mean, I've just got a mobile phone with a countdown, you know, because that's the problem. If you haven't got a clock, and it always helps if you have a screen with a clock so the speakers can see that you really are running out of time. Yeah. But it's amazing, at every event, you know, in the best places, there's never a clock and there's never a microphone for everyone, you know. It's just like, I think, absolutely, because of the remote audience. Yeah, exactly. So I'll wait for a signal from Paul there, our director. Our director. Yes. Yeah, we just have to be out of this by 10 minutes past, and it would really just see how quickly the Slido things come in. There should be a word cloud that appears for the countries and for the words that they associate, and the one in the middle is your expectations. So we'll, yeah, briefly comment. Mm-hmm. Yes. 1 minute. Okay, 3 minutes to go. These big events, you have an earpiece, you know, and you have a director who's... But it's very funny because with some of these organizations, nobody wants to take responsibility for when you start or when you stay. And in the earpiece, it should be a director saying, the line's too bad, drop that, go to the next, like you do in television. But nobody ever wants to make those decisions, so you just end up making them, you know. Yes, okay. Welcome, everybody who's joining us remotely and also in the wonderful city of Ljubljana. So we're here for the technical meeting for the launch of the ALMA initiative. As you all know, ALMA stands for Aim, Learn, Master, Achieve, and its aim is to support disadvantaged young people to help them build a career path, but really their way in life. And we're going to hear also from the TLN Mobility Network, which has really brought some transformative change and is bringing transformative change to many young people across Europe. and they're going to share their tips, lessons learnt, and some practical experience on how to participate in the ALMA initiative. So my name is Claire Dool, and I'm going to be moderating and guiding you through today and tomorrow.
And my name is Fintan Farrell, and welcome everybody here, and also all the people online. And I will be helping with the moderation over the 2 days.
There we are. But what's really important, of course, is you, our audience here and our remote audience. So we're going to ask you to use Slido. For Slido, you're going to have to get your mobile phones out and go onto the Wi-Fi, and you'll see that the Wi-Fi is Grand Hotels with the code Internet. It is there in the fact that you go onto slido.com. I will move, and you can either take a screenshot of the QR code or you put that code in. This is all very important because we want to, of course, build a bridge between our remote audience and the audience here. And this is the way that you can ask questions and make comments. So if you manage to do that, or put in that code, you should see that there's two options, questions and poll. And we're going to the poll first. And there's a question, which is the warm-up question. Which country are you from? So while you do that, I'll say, I sound very British, but I'm really pleased I have Swiss nationality at the moment. Gets me into Schengen. Still not the EU, but it's near. Whereas Fintan is very fortunate in that he comes from Ireland.
I come from Ireland, and I'm living in Belgium, and I spend a good bit of time in Greece.
There we are. There we are. We're citizens of Europe, and there we are. We can see that Germany is doing incredibly well here. Germany and France, Slovakia. Oh, so somebody has decided to rig this vote. I'll make no comments about Eurovision. There we are. Excellent. But it's great that we've got so many people from far and wide. Lithuania most probably is perhaps one of the first that people have come from. There we are. France and Germany, the axis of Europe, huh?
And it may be a little bit slower for coming in online, so we need to give it a few more minutes.
There we are.
A few more time to see it.
There we are. We've almost Slovakia. I love the smiley from Slovakia. A sense of humor. We most probably got many EU member states here, which is, I think, what everybody wants. Super.
Portugal.
There we are. We won't have any, I'm just thinking of the Eurovision Song Contest in Switzerland, nul point, no points, but there we are. They're not a part of this, unfortunately. Okay, I think we've seen the breadth of member states. The next one, very important. What are your expectations from today and tomorrow? Because we really hope to be able to meet those. And you can see all the different ones that there are, and also our remote audience. Please tell us what your expectations are. There we are, in real time.
Not surprising that people need to find out more about ALMA.
Because it's new.
It's new and emerging.
Absolutely, yes, indeed. And we are going to be hearing a lot about how you can implement yours based on the lessons learned and the insights of people who have been running these programs for a number of years. So there we are. And find transnational partners. Well, we'll have to do a survey afterwards to find out what percentage did find a transnational partner.
And I think it is really important that people will get to know each other, because it is a real community, this network. So we'll do more work on that as the 2 days progress.
And there we are. Perhaps you don't know so much about ALMA, but the next question is, what words do you associate with the ALMA initiative? So we're going to build another word cloud here. There we are. Those most probably are the words that people want to see. This is always the risk at the end of a conference, and you say, how has it been? And you think, oh, I'm going to get dull, pointless, and all the rest of it. But I don't think this is going to be the case here. This, as we can see, everybody, I think, in the room really believes in this initiative. What springs out for you, Fintan?
Well, I like that they're calling youngsters and young people. I think that's what's very central, is that it's a project that really offers a new hope and new possibilities for young people. Yeah, absolutely. And that big word, inclusion, which I think we're going to hear a lot about over the next few days. So thank you very much for using Slido. We're going to carry on using Slido throughout the day and tomorrow. Fintan, thanks very much. Thank you.
Fintan's going to be joining us later.
Okay.
So we're now going to hear from our organisers and hosts who've spent a lot of time putting on this event and making sure that you do have all the information that you need about the ALMA programme. And first of all, we're going to hear from Nicholas Schmidt, the EU Commissioner for Jobs and Social Affairs, who has recorded this video message for us.
Dear participants, today's meeting is about getting together to join efforts to support young people. We all know that when you are young, it is the time to discover the world and your place in it, to venture into new challenges and build your path. However, the pandemic has brought quite the opposite effect. Lockdowns, career disruptions, and perspectives blurred. Young people who were already facing some social difficulties were particularly affected. Young people with disabilities, long-term unemployed, young people with a migration background or living in rural areas face even bigger challenges. Many of them are now not in employment, education, or training. We owe them the opportunity to prove themselves, to rebuild their self-confidence, and find their career path. This is what ALMA will offer them. From the very start, the von der Leyen Commission made youth employment a top priority. This is why the Youth Guarantee was reinforced, why this year is the European Year of Youth, and why ALMA was born. Last week, we organized a high-level conference to promote ALMA's implementation under the European Social Fund Plus. We had the chance to witness the transformative change the predecessor of ALMA brought to the young participants who came to tell us their stories. ALMA is based on the success story of the IDA program, Integration durch Austausch, initiated by Germany, which eventually became the TLN Mobility network. It was joined by several member states. This is an excellent example of how member states can use the European Social Fund to try something new. Now it is time to upscale and mainstream it at European level through the ALMA initiative. I am very grateful for all the help the German authorities have extended in setting up ALMA and in organizing today's meeting. Equally, my thanks go to all the active members of the TLN Mobility Network, as well as the Slovenian Public Employment Services and the Slovenian authorities for hosting this event in Ljubljana. This conference will offer the opportunity to learn more about ALMA and to discuss very practical questions. Some of you are already planning to include it in your operational programs, and I hope after this meeting, even more of you will. I wish you all a fruitful meeting. Thank you.
The commissioner there, and I think that all of us who are in this wonderful city of Ljubljana are so pleased that the Slovenians are our hosts here for today and tomorrow. So it's my absolute pleasure to ask Mitja Bobna, Director General of the Employment Services of Slovenia, to say a few words.
Dear ladies and gentlemen, colleagues from the Commission and the TLN partners, also participants from the Ministers of Public Employment Services. I am delighted to be here with you today, and I'm honored to address you on the behalf of the Slovenian Employment Service of Slovenia, who is co-organizing this ALMA event in Ljubljana, together with the Commission and the TLN Mobility Network. First of all, I'd like to say that young people and are true future of Europe, and our labor market need them. We need the young people, those who are skilled and highly educated, and we also need the young people who are vulnerable and disadvantaged. Our job and our challenge is to integrate those young people and on the labor market and include on them in the society. The existing program of transnational mobility for disadvantaged young people provide to be successful in many ways. During mobility, young participants can build on their social skills. They get out of their comfort zone and face their fears, which makes them more self-confident. With mobility, participants are able to improve their foreign language skills and get important work-related experience abroad. Also, these programs are supporting young people for disadvantaged backgrounds is to find their opportunities on their labor market. Within the Slovene Employment Service, we are aware of the fact that young people are one of the most vulnerable groups on the labor market. To tackle youth unemployment in Slovenia, we have designed a set of measures within active employment policy. One of our recent projects in Slovenian mobility scene, our mobility program started in 2017 as a pilot project, and so far we managed to include more than 180 participants who are unemployed aged between 18 till 35 years. Priority to the inclusion was given to the long-term unemployment young people. What I can say is that most of our participants profiled through mobility. The experience of mobility changed them in a positive way. They gained skills and work experience and lost their fears of living and working abroad. I am pleased to inform you that Employment Service of Slovenia will continue to run our mobility program with the next ESF Plus program period, with the support of the Slovenian Ministry of Labor, Family, Social Affairs and Equal Opportunities. I am also happy with the fact that importance of mobility of disadvantaged youth has been recognized on the EU level with the launching of the new ALMA program, which aims to support new member states and projects. During these 2 days here in Ljubljana, I wish you many fruitful discussions, ideas and concrete solutions that will result in designing new ALMA mobility projects in the EU member states. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And congratulations on the mobility network and the 180 young people from the disadvantaged backgrounds who have now found their career path and training opportunities. It's now my pleasure to ask Fabienne Levy, Head of the Unit of the Director General of Employment, Social Affairs and Inclusion at the European Commission, to say a few words.
Thank you. Good morning. Well, thank you for organizing this wonderful weather, first of all. Very, very nice indeed to be in Ljubljana with you on this beautiful day. I'll introduce myself briefly. I've been working in the Commission for quite a long time now, and I'm head of unit in DG Employment, Social Affairs and Inclusion. This unit is dealing with the financial management of the European Social Fund, and also for a small fund which is called the European Globalization Adjustment Fund. And I've met, I don't see her now, but we have actually here a colleague whom we've met before. Yes, here you are, because she works on this fund for Greece, so there is some possible synergy here. And I've just received this wonderful new file, the ALMA file, just 2 months ago now. So I'm new to this file. I'm sure many of you know much more about ALMA than I do, but we're going to go through this together. First of all, I would like, you've seen the video, you've watched the video by the Commissioner. What I can tell you is that he's personally very enthusiastic about this ALMA project. He really, truly believes in it. So that's a great incentive and momentum at Commission level to really provide as much support as we can to get, as he said, ALMA off the ground, to build on the fantastic work which has been achieved by the TLN Mobility Network, and to get this new initiative off the ground. So I also would like to refer, that was mentioned by the Commissioner as well, to the event which took place last week, the online event. Perhaps some of you have watched it. It was mostly online, but we had some young people, young beneficiaries, who came to Brussels in person and met with the Commissioner, and he was truly overjoyed to be meeting with them. And I think probably it was reciprocal, at least it was also for me. So for this, I really would like to thank heartily the TLN members who organized the young people coming to Brussels, and that's members from Spain, Catalonia to be precise, Italy, Trento in Italy, Germany, the Czech Republic, Sweden, and Poland. So thank you very much. I haven't met you yet. I'm not sure all of you are here, but I really thank you for having made this possible. And we also had, so they came in person, but we also had one young person from Germany online. So that was really, really nice. And the event of today and tomorrow comes at a crucial time, because as you know very well, the member states are currently finalizing their programming for the programming period 21-27. So this is really the time to include ALMA in there and to get it started as soon as possible, because the funds, I mean, as soon as the operational programs are adopted, the funds are here, it's possible to start immediately. So I will not be long. I just wanted to thank very much the organizers of this event. So Paul from Germany and Anna welcoming us here in Ljubljana, so from Slovenia, and also, if I may, my colleague Rafael, who has been working closely with them and made this event possible. So I wish you, and that includes myself, a very fruitful event and full of connections and useful information to get ALMA off the ground. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Fabienne. I think, as we saw, that there are many Germans in the audience or joining us remotely, and Germany has really been pivotal in getting these transnational cooperation mobility networks off the ground. And so it's my pleasure to welcome Markus Löbert, head of the ESF Program Implementation Division, at Germany's Federal Ministry of Labour and Social Affairs.
Well, first of all, a very good morning to everybody here in the room and to everybody streaming this event. And I would like to thank Commissioner Schmidt, Mr. Bobner, and Ms. Levy for their opening remarks. And me, myself, thank you for introducing me. I'm Markus Löbert from the German Ministry of Labour and Social Affairs, and today it's my pleasure and honor representing the TLN Mobility. We, the TLN Mobility, we are a voluntary cooperation of currently 8 member states and regions, which are the Czech Republic, Germany, Poland, Slovenia, Sweden, and the Spanish regions of Andalusia and Catalonia, and the Italian region, Trento. And I'm very happy to say that we have a new member in our TLN network, which is Greece. I have heard that everybody of these members helped a lot to prepare today's meeting. Thanks for that. And they are here to share their knowledge with you today and tomorrow. So let's get together and share our thoughts. We've heard a lot about the target, the goal of ALMA. It is, of course, labor market integration. But as Ms. Levy pointed out, we have an official part. We have our point of view, labor market integration. But the young participants have another perspective. It's not only labor market integration, it's developing their personality. And we all know, we, the officials, know ESF stands for European Social Fund. But for these young disadvantaged people, ESF could also mean Europe spreads freedom. Europe spreads freedom. So let's start working on that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Markus. So you're now the head of the Europe Spreads Freedom division, if I've understood correctly. Super. Well, we're now going to dig a little bit deeper about the ALMA initiative. That is the point of the 2 days. So it's my pleasure to ask Fabienne again to join me on stage. And Fabienne is going to take you through the ALMA initiative in a little bit more detail. And could I just say, please do write questions on Slido, because I'm sure Fabienne would be delighted to take them.
Yep. Okay, well, good morning again. The stakes are high because I've seen from the Slido question that everybody basically is here to learn more about ALMA. So I will try to share with you what I have learned myself in the couple of months that I've been tasked with this file. And I will also, of course, try to answer your questions, but this is very much work in progress. This was mentioned, I will go briefly over the general introduction because this was mentioned in the video by Commissioner Schmidt, that indeed ALMA is very high priority on the Commission agenda. It was announced by the President von der Leyen herself in the State of the Union speech last September. So this is really about as high as you can get in the priorities of the Commission. Of course, since then, there has been dramatic developments in Europe, so other much higher priorities, but this remains very high, also in the context of the European Year of Youth, which was also mentioned by the Commissioner. So 2022 has been declared the European Year of Youth. So the context is really favorable to the start of this ALMA initiative. So what is ALMA? I will organize my short presentation in 3 parts. So the first one being what is ALMA in a few words, and then provide some information on the implementation of ALMA under the ESF Plus, the European Social Fund Plus, and the possibilities for programming. And then finally say a few words about the central coordination which will be provided at the European level. What is ALMA? ALMA is an initiative for active inclusion of young people, and more particularly the social inclusion of disadvantaged young people through very tailor-made, personalized support at various phases. It has been said before, very much inspired by the mobility scheme for disadvantaged young people, which has been implementing by the network of which we've just heard, the TLN network, and even before that, an initiative from Germany, IDA, right, since 2008. So it's not, we are not starting from scratch. There is a lot of experience. There are lots of good practices on which we can build. It may be useful also to mention that ALMA will complement existing mobility programs. Of course, we all know about Erasmus Plus, but it has completely different target groups, as you're very well aware, because here we deal with students, so it's completely different target group. We also have the European Solidarity Corps, which is for voluntary actions, but here again, it's the young people who take the initiative. Whereas for ALMA, if I may say so, we will have to go and reach out to them, because quite often they will not be in a position to take such an initiative themselves. And this is precisely also the purpose of this. I'm not sure Commissioner Schmidt mentioned it in his video, but he has mentioned it several times. What's really fundamental that young people gain through ALMA is confidence to carry on with their lives. So in a nutshell, this is the overall purpose of ALMA, and then the approach is very specific, tailor-made, as I mentioned. So the target group, you know very well, is for the young people who are not in employment, education, or training. Young people, meaning between 18 and 29. There can be some exceptions with younger people under certain circumstances, and not only young people who are not in education, employment, education, or training, but also who are in particular difficult situation because of their personal circumstances. Can be anything, can be yes, they can be disabled for some reason. I mean, facing particular challenges in their life. The core, I mean, what makes ALMA different, of course, is this mobility in another member state, this 2 to 6 months mobility, and this is where, of course, there is the European added value. So the work-related experience in another member state for 2 to 6 months, that's the core of the project. But it can only work because we're talking about the specific young population with particular challenges. It can only work if it's integrated in a comprehensive project cycle, which means that it needs to be very well prepared before the mobility and followed up after the mobility. And here I have to say that when exchanging with the young beneficiaries who came to Brussels last week, several of them really mentioned how it was, the follow-up was important. Because if they were left on their own after the mobility, they could face the same issues that they were facing before. So we have to make sure that they are accompanied to really benefit from this experience. And this is really crucial. On the project cycle, you will hear more from Bettina Reuter later on. We will go into detail on the manual of guidance, so we'll provide really some very useful elements. But the idea here, what you see is, that's of course the ideal. The objective is that the target, so the disadvantaged needs find themselves in a kind of a vicious circle where, you know, their situation lower their self-confidence and therefore their motivation, and they have difficulties accessing the job market. So it seems like it's a situation where it's difficult, from which it's difficult to get out. So with this project cycle, as mentioned, with the three very important phases, the preparation, the stay abroad, and the follow-up, the idea, of course, is to bring them to a completely different situation. And perhaps the most important element, indeed, is to heighten this self-confidence so that they have a renewed motivation, which will help them in turns to integrate into the job market, of course, but the society at large. So this is this represents, of course, an ideal situation. This is what we're aiming at, and hopefully we'll succeed with as many beneficiaries as possible with this cycle. Then ALMA, of course, has this dimension, transnational dimension, but it requires partnerships at different level. And here I will not go into details because you, the audience, the TLN members, you know much more about this than I do, because you've been practicing it in practice, in real life. But indeed, first of all, at national level, you need coordination mechanism between a number of actors. And particularly here, I would like to underline what makes it different, is the target population, to reach out to the target population. And this was also mentioned as a challenge by the young people who came to Brussels last week. How do we find these young people? They're not, if you want, in a way, they're not our usual interlocutors. So for this, of course, we need to be in touch with organizations which are useful and able to contact them, this type of organization which support the youth in different projects, and this is very important. But of course, the public employment services have a role to play, managing authority naturally. But so it's already quite a complex organization at national level. And then, of course, you have to find a matching partner organization in another member state to organize the mobility. And it doesn't stop there, because then you have to find the companies which will welcome these young people, the participants. So as we see here, but Bettina will tell us more about it, this is not simple. It's a complex project which is quite different from other projects that we do under the European Social Fund. It's not simple, but many of you have experience, and the purpose is also to share good practices between yourself, and that's also what we're aiming at during these 2 days' work, and also, of course, with the participants online. So, now to the second part of my presentation on the implementation of ALMA, and briefly what are the possibilities under the European Social Fund Plus, so for the programming period 21-27. Well, first of all, it's important to underline that ALMA is very much consistent with several specific objectives of the ESF Plus. So of course, and the numbering here comes from the ESF regulation, and if you want to check it out, it's Article 5. So this is why they have some numbers for easy reference. But of course, first of all, youth employment, but also equal access to training and learning mobility, active inclusions, naturally, and social economic integration, social inclusion, marginalized communities, etc. So it's very much the ALMA initiative included, or to be included, by as many member states as possible. This is, again, work in progress, is very much consistent with the specific objectives of the ESF Plus. I should add, also very important, that without going into technicality, but you are aware that there is a requirement for thematic concentration on generally youth issues, that is youth employment, vocational education and training, and transitions from school to work. This is foreseen in the ESF regulation for 9 member states, because they have a higher proportion of so-called needs. They have to dedicate at least 12.5% of the ESF Plus national allocation to these youth issues. So the 9 member states, I mean, I'm sure you know if you are part of them, but it's Bulgaria, Cyprus, Greece, Spain, France, Croatia, Italy, Romania, Slovakia. So here there is this obligation, and with the implementation of ALMA, you can actually fulfill this obligation. For all other member states, it's not as specific, but they still have to dedicate what is called an appropriate amount of their ESF Plus national allocation to this priority. So it's very relevant, I think, for all member states. And perhaps I should mention, because as in many cases, money is a very important part of this, that if ALMA is programmed under the priority for social innovation, then the co-financing rate for this can be increased to 95%. So which means that in practice it's fully funded by European funds almost. So really it's an opportunity not to be missed. And then what can be funded under the ESF Plus support? Well, pretty much all the aspects of the project cycle that was mentioned before. I will not go into the details, but perhaps just to say that yes, all the training, coaching, counseling before, but also after the stay abroad. And this costs money because it has to be individualized, personalized, so it's really not ready to wear. It's haute couture that we're talking about here, handmade. So time consuming, and time is money. So this can be covered. During the stay abroad, of course, all the organization of the stay can be covered, and also the needs of the participant during the stay abroad. This includes an allowance to make sure that they have a decent standards of living while they are abroad. So accommodation and transport, also insurance coverage, and Michael will tell you more in the standard cost options. Of course, the allowance depends also on the level of living in the receiving country. So it's a very wide range of measures, well, pretty much everything, which can be covered under the ESF Plus. Current commitment by member states. Some of you may be aware of the fact that Commissioner Schmidt, at the end of January, he wrote to member states asking them for an estimation of how much budget, ESF Plus budget, they were willing to dedicate to ALMA, and if possible, an estimate of the potential number of participants. And this he did, again, because he was very committed to this ALMA initiative. So here, a word of caution. What you see on this slide reflects the official replies which were received to the letter by Commissioner Schmidt. It doesn't necessarily reflect the commitment your country may have to ALMA. And this I say because I know that at least one country, and to name it, the Czech Republic is very committed to ALMA, and a participant, as I said, a beneficiary came to Brussels last week, but it's not reflected here because we have not received an official reply. Sorry, this sounds very administrative, but it's because the Commissioner wanted to publish this information to make it available, and we could only do this on the basis of official information. But still, here you see that the majority of member states have expressed a strong commitment to implement ALMA, and 8 member states have provided financial estimate of the amounts, and this includes Germany, France, Cyprus, Bulgaria, Slovakia, Greece, and Slovenia. And at regional level, Belgium from the city of Brussels, Brussels capital, and Poland for a number of regions. So, and this for a total amount at this stage of 276 million, so quite a substantial commitment already. And in fact, at the ALMA event last week, we had the pleasure of welcoming the young beneficiary, as mentioned before, because for me it was really the highlight of the event. But we also had some online commitment by ministers, like the recorded video pledges, in which they declared that they were really committed to implementing ALMA. And we had videos from ministers from Cyprus, Sweden, Bulgaria, Slovakia, Greece, and a state secretary from Germany live, who made the commitment with the amount and number of beneficiaries live. So there is a strong commitment from member states. So now the last part, I'm reaching the last part of my presentation. I realize that this may be of particular interest to you, because this is what the information which will come from the Commission. However, here I have to be honest, it's very much work in progress. So there is only so much I can say. The positive side is that I'm very interested to hear your views, your suggestions, your proposal, because there is still plenty of time to integrate them in the work that we're currently preparing. So, in a nutshell, the Commission, as you've understood by now, I'm sure, is very interested in this ALMA initiative, and will therefore support the member states to implement it as a social innovation measure. So basically, the nature of ALMA, as we've seen, makes some aspects of it quite complicated for member states, because it's different from other projects which can be implemented under the ESF. So this is why there is this need for central coordination at EU level, in particular for transnational cooperation, matching organizations, like how do you build these links with other member states? Well, this has been done very well in the TLN network, 8 members. I've heard this morning 1 additional one, so let's continue building up on this. But indeed, central support may be needed at EU level. So what are we going to do? What are we doing? Well, obviously networking, events such as this one, mutual learning activities, that kind of things. Again, building upon what has been done by the TLN network. So there will be, and the colleague, we have a colleague from the Lithuanian European Social Fund Agency here, because I've met her. Yes, here she is. So, and that's Renata, right? Correct. And we also have on Migli online, I think. So that's all very good, because they will be, the Lithuanian European Social Fund Agency will be, well, technical terms, will be the interested entity for the management of a number of actions at central EU level, and that includes in particularly calls for proposals on which we're currently working, which will devote 15 millions to help launch the transnational partnership. So that is for member states which have not been doing this before. This will provide help. It would, however, it would only be published in the last quarter of this year, so this is, it will be helpful, but it's not, I would suggest not to wait for this to start the process already. It will also relieve the TLN network with, of course, upon their request and with their agreement, of some of their administrative tasks, like the TLN Mobility database can be taken over, support to capacity building, internet, website, organization of such events, because this is very heavy. Has been heavy with 8 members, will be even heavier when all member states are part of this. So this is the kind of support which will be provided at European level, but again, I insist, very much work in progress, so suggestions are very much welcome. So just to say a word, and I'm getting to the end of my presentation here, is what we've been doing recently. So we've been updating the manual, which will be presented later to you. We are in the process of finalizing a delegated act on simplified cost options for ALMA, and my colleague Michael, who is here in the room with us, will tell you more about this. We also have, communication activities. Well, there has been a number. It started at the end of 2021, presentation to the members of the ESF Plus committee. There was a webinar in December. There was also a presentation in the framework of a TLN Mobility meeting in February. And then this is also what I was referring before the, after the letter of Commissioner Schmidt, there was a discussion also in the SF Plus technical working group to find out more about the intentions in programming ALMA. We've also been in contact with large companies, like companies which take their corporate social responsibility seriously and are actually willing to offer this work placement opportunities to young people, because that's, of course, very important if we want the initiative to succeed. And the event from last week, which I've already mentioned. So the timeline, so these actions, how does it look? As mentioned, the programming can already start and has already started in some member states. And then the call for national partnerships, well, hopefully to be launched not too late, not too far from now. And then hopefully again, before the end of this year, start the implementation on the ground. Well, that's quite ambitious, of course. And then on our side, the manual update I've already mentioned, database update, delegated act, I mean all this, and the call for proposals at the end, in the last quarter of this year as well. So and the events I will not repeat. So this is the timeline as it currently stands, quite ambitious. I'm aware of this, but hopefully what it all means is that the first beneficiaries could receive ALMA support let's say, early next year already. Yeah? Let's be optimistic. And then to conclude, where to get more information on ALMA. And with this, I thank you very much for your attention, and I shall be happy to answer the questions, well, or try to answer the questions, or note the questions to answer them at a later stage. Thank you very much for your attention.
These questions we're going to address throughout the day about the bad experiences, what should be avoided, the main risks. I think those are certainly going to come up in the workshops, and how to mobilize the operating partners. But Fabian, take your pick of the questions, perhaps that interesting one at the top and the one at the bottom. Is it possible for youth from third countries to benefit from ALMA?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think so. If they are in a legal situation in a member state, there is nothing preventing young beneficiaries from other countries. So some of you may be thinking about the Ukrainian refugees, but I think that may not be. Personally, I would say maybe that's not their first priority at this stage. But yes, in their particular case, there is no question about it, because they have this specific status in any case, which allows them to benefit from all measures under the ESF Plus and other programs as well. Last question, will coordinated... sorry.
It disappeared. Could we have it again? It's, will coordinated calls be... This often happens. You get a good question and then it disappears.
It just jump off. Yeah.
There we are.
From there will be. Coordinate. Well, it depends. It depends. But what I've mentioned is that there will be a call indeed at EU level, and this is the 15 million under social innovation. But then, of course, there can be other specific calls which would be mentioned under the operational program. Then what do I see?
There's one on how to demonstrate risk of poverty to ESF Plus. What do you have to prove?
I don't know.
But somebody in the room will.
I'm not, I'm not going to blah blah on something really I don't know. I do hope it will be as light as possible, considering the specifics of the situation. I would think it shouldn't be too complicated, but I'm not implementing on the ground, so I'm not gonna, say something that I don't know.
There's an interesting one here. Is it possible to cooperate with more than one?
Yeah. Well, of course. I mean, there is what is foreseen is one stay abroad, but of course, I mean, we invite you to cooperate between as many member states as possible. Of course.
And there's one here, I think. Who is going to be responsible for the networking under ALMA? Will it be the entrusted entity or the TLN Mobility Network?
Well, the TLN, we very much support the TLN Mobility Network, which I think it will continue in some forms. But basically, to put it bluntly, I think at least that would be my objective, to take over whatever the TLN network wants to get rid of, and then they can continue what they wish to continue. So but this is precisely to be seen now, with the interested entity who is here as well to discuss and adjust. So it will be the TLN network will continue under some forms, but it's true that a lot of administrative, let's say, activities will be taken over by the Lithuanian agency. So
I'm sure people will be relieved to hear about that, because the admin obviously is quite heavy, as you said.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think that to the people who've asked the questions, that the issue about working with the national operator, the project managers, the risks, we are going to hear from people who have been managing these projects later in the day. So that's most probably all of the Slido questions at the moment, Fabienne. You're out of the hot seat.
Perhaps because I have seen a question which I thought was interested but disappeared in the clouds somewhere, although no clouds today, but okay. On the bad experiences, bad results. I think this is very important. Overall, I mean, I've seen the results of the TLN mobility networks. They're very good. But of course, you cannot expect a 100% success rate. We live in the real world here. So we aim, I showed you this cycle going from a vicious cycle to a virtuous cycle through this project. I'm very well aware, even though I'm a bureaucrat working in my office, but I'm very well aware that we don't live in an ideal world. So let's aim for the highest possible success rate, but let's not be discouraged by when things don't work out. I think the important thing here is to take stock. If things don't work out, can we draw lessons from it and then do better next time? Possibly, but not always. It's a difficult population we're talking about here, so failures cannot be avoided in some cases. It's very sad, but that's life, really. So I think it's a very important question. We should try to do the best we can, but aiming for perfection is not possible, clearly.
Yeah.
Voilà. Thank you.
Absolutely. Well, thank you very much, Fabien. I'm going to take the word networking from the screen and say it's now an opportunity to network, because this is not just a mutual learning event, but getting to know everybody event. So there's a coffee break now until 11:40, where we'll come back and we hope that we're going to be addressing some of those questions, some of the added value, the integration rate that Fabienne was just talking about, as well as some of the challenges and risks. So we'll take a break now. For our online audience, please go away and have a cup of tea or coffee, and that's what we're going to be doing in the room. Thank you. Right. How many, sorry, yes, do we need microphones? Because there's only 2 microphones up there. They have 3? Okay. So, yes. So, Valeria, sorry, my microphones are, Anastasia, we've got 2, 3 microphones. Great. Okay. Good. So
The other.
you might. Oh look. Yes. Yes. Yeah. No. It's not. Welcome back, everybody, from our remote audience, if you've taken a break, and here in Ljubljana, where everybody has been busy drinking coffee and networking. With me is the TLN network, and we're going to hear from them in a moment with their insights on best practice, and they're going to share some of their tips and tricks with you on how you manage a program for this particular targeted group. But first of all, we're going to hear from Peter Paul Simons, who is from the German Ministry of Labour and Social Affairs and is the project officer for TLN and the ALMA network. Please.
Yes, thank you very much. Yes, I'm Paul Peters from the German Labour Ministry and part of the TLN network, and I'm just gonna quickly tell you a bit about our network, and then we will proceed with more insights. So yes, the TLN network, it was mentioned already by Commissioner Schmidt. The name is we are a transnational learning network, so like a voluntary cooperation of several member states and regions. It started all, as mentioned by Commissioner Schmidt, with the German EDA program. And based on the success of this program, this network was established in 2013. It currently has 8 members, which was already mentioned, and all of these members have, except for Andalusia, have all implemented their own very successful mobility program. They have all gathered a lot of very interesting information, experience on how to implement these type of programs. And yeah, there's already a lot of knowledge on these programs. Here you can also see a map a bit. It looks very chaotic, but you can see how active the network has been. So where participants came from and also where they went. And you can also see that even though not all EU member states are members of the network, a lot of participants also already went to other countries which are not part of the network. So maybe you can even find your country already in blue on this map, and you can see that at least you have already received some of the participants of TLN. Just a short insight about what we have done so far as our network. Of course, as a network, we have network meetings where we exchange experience, share best practices, and just support and help each other with our mobility programs. So these meetings take place regularly, several times a year. The network has also developed supporting materials to implement these programs. There has been a manual of guidance which now has been updated and renewed by the Commission, so we are very grateful for that. There have also been other information resources, and we've also created a database where you can find transnational partners for your own mobility programs. This is also going to be presented later on in the workshops even more. So there's a lot of help that you can get from what has already been done. Yeah, and TLN has always thought that this is a very good idea, a good approach, and we have been, the network has been advocating for a broader program at the EU level to lift this idea to another level. And so that's why we are really, really grateful that the Commission has actually picked up this idea and has launched the ALMA initiative. And we are, of course, very, very happy that you all have been interested in the ALMA program and are now here and want to learn more about it. Yeah, also I think something that will interest you about the future of our network, because I can already see that there's a bit of confusion of what is ALMA, what is the TLN network. So we have discussed about that, and we think, of course, as I said, we really very much support ALMA. And we also really want to continue to exist. So under the umbrella of ALMA, we as a network will continue to exist. We will continue to network, hold our meetings, and connect all those that are participating in ALMA. So yeah, we will. This is also an added value, we hope, for the ALMA program, that this network already exists and that you have the possibility to just join us and take part in our meetings. Other tasks that I've already mentioned, these information resources, the database and all of that, hopefully we can hand over these tasks to the Commission. I think Fabienne Levy has already referred to that in her presentation. But this networking part, which I think, where we think is very crucial, will definitely continue. So yeah, this is also a call for you to please, if you are interested, join the network. You're free to come with us, and yeah, if you're already interested in that, you can also just come to me or other TLN members after today's session or during tomorrow's session, and even we have already prepared a list where you can enter your details at the registration desk. So yeah, this is just a call to yeah, please join our network. And of course, especially for the online viewers, you can also contact us. This is our email address. And if you now don't have enough time to write this down, you can just Google TLN Mobility and you will get there. Yes, that was it from my part. And now we want to show you a film that TLN has produced a few years ago, so it's a bit outdated. It still refers to the older idea to call this EU-wide program Juventus, but otherwise it's, I think, still a very good example and shows you a bit the work that TLN has done. So here's the film.
Thank you.
Discovering your strengths, preparing for working life, more and more young people are taking part in the exchange programs of the European Union. One of these programs is coordinated by the Transnational Learning Network, or TLN Mobility for short. 9 EU member states and regions work closely together in this network. Their aim is to provide new prospects for disadvantaged young people.
Thanks also to EU funding such as the European Social Fund, young people have the chance to take part in exchange programs that give them the courage and confidence they need to gain a foothold in the labor market.
In a video contest organized by the TLN network, projects from the Czech Republic, Germany, Poland, Slovenia, the Spanish region of Catalonia and Sweden illustrated how the participants benefited from their stay abroad as part of the program. Some of them will now share their experiences in the 3 winning films from the Czech Republic, Poland and Germany.
Ahoj, já jsem Andrea, pocházím ze Šivětína, což je taková malá vesnička na jihu Čech. Žila jsem tady 20 let a moje maminka vyrůstala tady v baráku za mnou.
Andrea, když nastoupila do projektu, tak byla nejistá, měla nízký sebevědomí, bála se, že se neuplatní, že se nenaučí jazyk, My se snažíme to přizpůsobit každému tomu klientovi. To znamená, že když třeba chodil na kuchařskou školu, učil se kuchařem, nepovedlo se mu to, nebo naopak je jeho sen být kuchařem, můžeme umístit v Červeném kříži, v restauracích.
Nakonec jsem si teda vybrala pozici servírky. Poznala jsem vlastně ve Španělsku novou mentalitu. Typický Španěl je přátelský, rád pomůže, umí se bavit. Když jsem se vrátila ze stáže, tak jsem dostala pracovní nabídku od Ataveny.
Andrea nastoupila jako administrativní pracovnice, taková pomocná síla. Velmi rychle se ukázalo, že toho mí spoustu, takže jsme z ní nakonec udělali koordinátorku projektu.
Staž mi dala především sebedůvěru.
Zjistila, že se může spolehnout sama na sebe.
Získala takovou tu schopnost se ptát, říct si názor.
Když mám nějakou výzvu, tak před ní neutíkám, ale postavím se k ní čelem a vyřeším to a věřím si.
Przed projektem byłam strasznie zagubiona życiowo. Bardziej podejmowałam się prac jakichś takich toryw.
Moje życie zmieniło się o 180 stopni. Ten projekt umożliwił rozpoczęcie nowej ścieżki, która opiera się na przekuwaniu niemożliwego w możliwe. Jako że jestem osobą, która od wielu lat zmaga się z depresją i nerwicą, spotkałam się w restauracji z wielką życzliwością.
Nie kryją swojej wiedzy, wręcz się nią dzielą, tym bardziej ze stażu.
Jak idę, nie wiem, przez salę w bluzie kucharskiej, to widzę właśnie, że ludzie patrzą z podziwem. Kiedyś to ja właśnie patrzyłam, a teraz jestem, że tak powiem, członkiem tego. Mogłam to poczuć na własnej skórze, no i też się zakochać w tym. W nowym serwisie zawsze mam ten uśmiech na twarzy.
Wiele restauracji zatrudnia dalej, pracują, szkolą się, awansują i później zostają nawet szefami kuchni.
Do Hiszpanii pozwolił spojrzeć na problemy, którymi się zajmowałam wcześniej z nowej perspektywy.
Jestem kucharzem, tak? Kucharz też musi być odważną osobą.
A co na ilu procentach jesteś zadowolona?
Na 1000%.
Podjęłam najlepszą decyzję swojego życia, że wtedy wyjechałam.
Z czym ten projekt Ci się kojarzy? Z wolnością. Tak, z wolnością.
Ja, ich bin Marlena, bin 22 Jahre alt. Nach der Schule wusste ich nicht so genau, was ich machen soll beruflich. Ich hatte vieles ausprobiert. Es war aber nicht irgendwie das dabei, wo ich jetzt sage, das möchte ich mein Leben lang machen.
Europe for You ist ein Projekt, das sich an junge Erwachsene richtet, die momentan arbeitslos sind und die Chance bekommen, durch ein Praktikum im Ausland eine Arbeitserfahrung zu sammeln und dann zurückkommen nach Deutschland, um sich auf den Arbeitsmarkt zu positionieren. Marlena ist mit 8 anderen Teilnehmenden und mir für 9 Wochen nach Irland gegangen und hat da ein Praktikum in einer Änderungsschneiderei absolviert.
Am Anfang dachte ich so, jetzt kann ich bestimmt die ganze Zeit Nadeln auf den Nadelkissen stecken. Dann hat sie mir am ersten Tag das erste Kleid vor die Nase gelegt. Und ich dachte so, wow, damit habe ich jetzt gar nicht gerechnet. Es hat mir so Spaß gemacht, dass ich gesagt habe, das kann ich mir für mein Leben lang vorstellen.
Es ist unglaublich, welche Entwicklung sie durchgemacht hat durch ihr Praktikum in Irland. Ich habe gemerkt, wie sie von Woche zu Woche mehr aufblühte und wirklich mit vollem und neuem Selbstvertrauen zurückkam und jetzt hier auch erfolgreich sich in einer Ausbildung befindet.
Es hat mir irgendwie gezeigt, du kannst trotzdem was. Auch wenn viele Menschen in deinem Leben dir schon gesagt haben, du kannst nichts, du schaffst nichts, du wirst nie arbeiten gehen.
The exchange program has proved a remarkable success. The participants are much more likely to finish school, find a training place, or get a job. As a result, the experiences gathered with the TLN network are now to be incorporated into the Juventus program, which can help young people from more member states who have a hard time finding a job or entering working life.
This is of great EU added value for our economies and societies. These films are an evidence of this. It is my strong hope that as many countries as possible will join forces to support the integration of disadvantaged young people in work and society.
Leaving your familiar surroundings, gaining new, positive experiences, seizing opportunities and taking control of your life. TLN Mobility is a vehicle for disadvantaged young people in Europe to enhance their prospects.
Stories, and I think you heard from one of the participants who used the word freedom. That makes me think of Marcus there and the Europe Spreads Freedom Fund. And with me are really people who know all about getting these projects off the ground. They are most probably were in the same position as you are now. If you're thinking about becoming part of the ALMA initiative, these people have all made that step and that leap, and they're going to share their experiences. They're going to talk about the challenges, some of the risks, also the integration rates, the added value, and share advice with you. If you're joining us online, please do ask those questions on Slido. Here in the room, we can also do that old-fashioned way of raising your hand. So let's hope that we get some questions for our very distinguished panel. Let me begin with Mechthild Jurgens, Policy Officer in charge of the ESF program at the German Ministry of Labour and Social Affairs. Welcome, Teresa Vilén, National Coordinator of the Swedish ESF Council. Valeria Okon, Project Manager, Public Employment Service of Slovenia. Wojciech Wróblewski, the Polish Managing Authority, and Anastasia Sachinido, the Greek Managing Authority. Let's just, in a very quick round, find out why they decided to take this step in the first place. And Mechthild, of course, you were really the forerunner in Germany with the EDA initiative. Very briefly, let's hear why they decided to participate.
Yeah, yeah, it works, yeah. Yeah, in 2008, we wanted to do something for difficult child groups, and we know there are European programs for exchange for students, apprentices, and but not a program for disadvantaged people far from the labor market to support the labor market integration. And so we wanted to give a chance and to enable these young people to go abroad too. No, it's a question of chance. And so we set up our first IDA program, ESF IDA program, and but it was we want to demonstrate that it is possible to increase the chances, and if appropriate support is provided, that's the condition. And so we adapted the Erasmus scheme, thanks to Erasmus, but to the very, very specific benefit, specific needs from our target group, and that's crucial. That's very important. Yeah, and that was the beginning. And then we wanted to do something within the transnational collaboration, and we located our program in the priority transnationality in this time in our ESF program from Germany. So that was the very beginning. Yeah.
Thank you. Teresa, what was your motivation?
Thank you. We have to go back 2015 when Sweden joined, so it was much later than Germany who started. And we saw that in the labor market, young people with migrant background, with disabilities, and who had dropped out of school, they had a really difficult time to integrate in the labor market. So we wanted to ensure and give support for the young people and give them opportunities. And because we believe that we should not leave anyone behind. So this was a tool also to ensure for us as a managed authority how we can support the European Pillar of Social Rights, but also how we can comply with the Agenda 2030. So we saw the good results from Germany and the success rate. So we also wanted to join in.
Absolutely, and we'll talk about the success rates later. Valeria, what was your motivation?
Yeah, hello everybody. Yeah, we also have to look back in 2016 and 17, then we started. I'm also US National Coordinator, so we have a lot of experience in mobility, but I had a feeling that we support more the people who already have a lot of chances to be mobile, because there is a certain demand for certain occupations. And also then I looked the possibilities for students. They really have a lot of possibilities to go abroad when they are studying. But what about the others, with less possibilities, who are vulnerable and disadvantaged? And then I thought, oh, why we don't have mobility programs for this? And then I was really lucky. I got information that is a Berlin conference, and I went there, and I was impressed because the Germans prepared so good framework and so good manual of guidance.
Really? The Germans?
Yeah,
That
the
surprises me.
Germans. I mean, the German ESF authority. And yes, then I came back. I said I want to initiate this, and also ministry gave me all the support. And then I've bothered many times Bettina, who is here with us, and without her help, I can say it would be very hard to implement it. Yeah, so we joined. Yeah.
Excellent. Wojciech.
Our Polish story was very similar to Swedish and Slovenian one. So we invested a lot of money, a lot of effort in educational mobility, and we searched for cooperation with Erasmus. We doubled the effect of Erasmus Plus by ESF money. We concentrated on students that were disabled, for example. But it turned out that Erasmus scheme is not perfect for those most disadvantaged. And the scheme prepared by the Germans turned out to be suited.
Quite good.
Yeah. yeah, frankly speaking, yes. So that was my story.
Excellent. And Anastasia, you're the newcomer. What motivated you? Because it's just been a few months that you've been involved.
So maybe it's time for us to join the club. It's as a country, it's been a long time since the last transnational initiative Equal, which was very fruitful for the member state. And now for us it's the opportunity to implement such an innovative intervention and to support the most vulnerable groups of the youngs in our country. We're very pleased to cooperate with other member states and TLN Mobility network and with people for German that help us. We're open to all other proposals for building our bridges with other countries. And we hopefully believe that we succeed in our effort.
And you're just in the early stages. So what would you say is the big challenge for you at the moment?
Of course, we have the similar challenges as all the countries that started for first time to find, for example, the appropriate project manager, to transnational partnership, in the more technical level, how to prepare our call, to identify the beneficiaries. And so we are starting with a pilot, and then we move on in a rollout in all over the country.
Yeah, absolutely. And just as Fabienne was saying earlier, it's a target group that is not the same target group as the Erasmus program. It's a target group which are disadvantaged in different ways. If we look at that challenge, Mechthild, what is difficult about this target group, and what could be the potential risks in getting involved?
First of all, to motivate them, because it's not to be assumed that they're enthusiastic. Oh, it's a big chance for me, and to know that it's a chance for them, and that's there's a big lack of self-confidence, and they don't trust. Oh, I'm able to go abroad. Will it work? And so all these questions, and it's a hard work to to go over this and to work with this motivation with this target group, I would say, and to reach them, and how to select them, how to attract them, how to address them. I think in the whole that's the question. Yeah, it's a risk for the project operator too. Yeah. To find the right participants and not to lose weak participants because of the lack of all these, and to include them, not to exclude them.
Yeah, absolutely, leaving no one behind, as Teresa was saying. Well, what did you find the challenge, and how did you overcome it?
Yeah, because motivation is one part, but I would like to add that the project operators, that is needed, that they have the knowledge of the target group so that they can give the right support to the target group. Because it's about seeing the individuals and giving the right support and believing that they can do it.
And this afternoon in our workshops, we're really going to look at what are the criteria for a good project operator, and what you sort of experience you need. Absolutely, you've got to get the right one. Yeah. Wojtek, what about your challenge? Wojtek.
There are a lot of challenges, the complicated structure of support, the finding the transnational partner, finding appropriate operators, beneficiaries, staff that will work with those disadvantaged youths, and we could put some selection criteria to get those the best suited to work with such difficult target group. But at the same time, I want to give a message to you that don't be afraid of those challenges, because 90% of Polish 34 projects went smoothly. Without major problems, and it's hard, but it's manageable, and the additional effort pays off, and the people for whom the other standard instruments failed. ALMA, IDA turned out to be efficient and tailor-made for those young people. So there are a lot of problems. We will talk about them during the workshops, and I could mention also the question of settling the expenses. Do we should use simplified cost options, and how, and so on. But yeah, it's all manageable.
It's all manageable. Valeria, before we look at the added values, some of your challenges in Slovenia from the perspective of a public employment service.
Yeah, I can compare this centralized mobility schemes. It's quite easy to apply. The Commission publishes a call, and then you apply and you win it if you fulfill the criteria. But here it was no centralized mobility scheme. Fortunately, the German ESF prepared this common framework, because if you have a transnational mobility project, you need a framework in advance. Without this framework, you cannot implement it. So this was really helpful. So we knew the ground, how we can cooperate with each other. And also they prepared a website with partners base, so it was helpful to find the right partners. But of course it was very difficult to implement it on the national level because of national ESF rules. And it was also the first targeted mobility scheme in Slovenia. So it was a challenge also for the Ministry of Labor, because I come from Public Employment Service. But together, with joint effort, we prepared the national framework, and then we started It was also a little bit difficult because we don't know the mentors will be good, the project coordinator will be good. And thanks for very good project operator and mentors who really did a great job. They are doing a great job. We succeed in the first year, and then we started the project, went on gradually after 1 year smoothly.
So we can see that the challenge is the target group, finding the right project operator, the structure, the financing, but you're all saying it's worth it. Let's look then at the integration rates. As Fabienne was saying earlier, we don't live in a perfect world. Nothing's going to be 100%. Perhaps even Erasmus is not 100%. What I just want to ask each of you, Valeria, just tell me, what is your percentage of integration rate? I think we heard from the director earlier that there had been 180 young people who'd profited, but what's the integration rate here?
Integration rate, in our case, it depends. If they are long-term unemployed, then it's about 50%, but if they are not long-term unemployed, then it's higher, it's up to 70%. So it's quite high, but still I can say we cannot expect that all will find employment immediately after they come back, because it's a great success if they make one step further. Maybe this step further will be inclusion into another active policy program or training or whatever. So
for the long-term unemployed, which is your target group, it's about 50%.
Yeah, for long-term unemployed.
Right, excellent. Wojciech, what's your integration rate and what's your target group or groups?
The integration rate is about 40%, but our target group was very difficult because only 50%, half of the participants could be just needs, and additional 50% participants have other additional disadvantages, factors like they were long-term unemployed, they were leaving correction centers or foster care, they were disabled. So I think the results is satisfactory, and what was said before by the Fabienne and by the Commissioner Schmidt, the tangible results is not what is the most important in this support. So boosting the self-confidence, increasing self-esteem, it's not so tangible and easy to measure. And
the numbers don't really give the full story.
Yeah, and for me, I think the most important factor in this program is changing of environment of those people, because environment they live in is often not very helpful, and they stuck, you know. So this change of environment lead to change.
That's interesting, because you might think that it was a real leap and going to be really difficult, but it's the fact that they've got out of their environment that is helping them. Teresa and Mechtild, I could see you nodding to what Wojciech was saying there. Just to come to integration rates, Teresa, what's yours and what's the target group?
Yeah, we have the same target group that will be in the ALMA program. So it's the same target that, as Poland.
So it's very broad?
No, so it's far from the labor market. So people with migrant background, abilities, and that haven't fulfilled high school
dropouts
and needs. So the integration rate is at 50%. And for us, that's a very good result. Because we have to have in mind that this is a target group we would not be able to reach if we didn't have this type of measures.
Yeah.
And it's also a target group that we haven't been able to reach with the national measures that we have. So it's a quite good result.
Yeah, Mechthild, your target group and integration rate.
Yeah, our target group in Germany is the same like in Sweden and Poland. It was not so. What is a bit different within the first program, but in the running program, it's very, very, very bright. It's very with various difficulties, and we have an integration rate from 50 to 55%. But I have to be honest, we have had a good labor market situation in Germany, and they could benefit. That weak people could benefit, and with a plus of the stay abroad, that was a decision for companies to say, yeah, even if there are problems, it's so good that we have people who went abroad, and that was a plus and the added value.
There was a need for them, and there was a skill shortage.
In spite of all these difficulties, and because of our labor market situation. And the same as said before, don't look only at the integration rate, because it is in part within the integration chain. No, we require this in our guideline. It must be a part within the integration chain, and the personal development is so important, and so more important than to find a job, to find an apprenticeship is the goal. But you need you need a lot for that.
Absolutely,
and not to lose weaker people, and to say, I have to integrate them, and to look little bit not immediately after the stay abroad. And a bit longer time.
Because it might take them time after their stay abroad to actually find where they want to go.
No, to find the perspectives after the stay abroad, and to say to look at the benefits.
So we're seeing lots of added value there. The fact that they've been taken out of their environment, the transnational cooperation, the self-esteem, the integration rates. Valeria, any other added value that you've seen from participants, or perhaps even from the people who work in the employment service?
Yeah, from the participants, maybe it's the best to tell a concrete example. We had, for example, one technician, and he was an electrician, so we would think, okay, he can get quickly a job. But because of his family background, his social circumstances, and he was long-term unemployed for more than 2.5 years. And then he joined the program. He was very timid, lack of self-confidence, self-esteem. But gradually he opened himself, this is really good news. Then he was in Germany, not here in the preparatory program, because he met people in the working place with the same background. He worked in a bicycle shop. And then he really made a progress in his personal development, and then he came back. He gradually, after some time, he found a job in a sports store. So yeah, it was a great personal changes for him. But not just this, also because this program was implemented inside public employment service, we had certain advantages in this, because the matching system is working. In advisors know unemployed people, so it was easier to reach unemployed people and suitable candidates. And also we build up competencies of our mentors and also to other advisors. I can just tell you an example. We actually sent our mentors to a coaching program, and then this mentor, one of the mentors, organized a short coaching workshop for past advisors, and that's why we built also internal competencies, and it also helps to the visibility of the public employment service, and also it helps to the national targets, because now unemployment rate is so low in Slovenia, so we have more and more disadvantaged people, and we have to pay more attention to them. Yeah.
So it's skills development of the participants, but also skills development, as you say, of the counsellors in the employment service, the project operators. Just before, we're going to do a round where they're going to ask they're going to give one piece of advice to everybody in the audience. But is there any other added value that we've missed, that you've seen? Yes, Teresa.
I would like to emphasize the EU added value, because usually in our projects it's a national contact, but we have to remember that the mobility schemes give the young people opportunity to go abroad, and they can feel that they are citizens of the EU, and they can feel the value. So that's that added value.
Yeah.
A good value.
Yeah, becoming an EU citizen, absolutely. Well, let me stay with you, Teresa, as you've got the mic. Well, they're going to each give you one piece of advice until we completely run out of advice and we come to your questions. Teresa, your piece of advice to people who would be thinking of starting this scheme in their member state.
I think for my own experience, and the best advice I can give to you is join TLN Mobility, because the knowledge there that it has been very helpful for Sweden, for our managing authority, because whenever we have questions, we can ask someone, and you get the support, and also a possibility to share experience. And it helps to find out new solutions and new ways to continue this social innovation that we want to continue with.
Mechthild, what would be your piece of advice, apart from join TLN Mobility? I think we've got that message.
I would say it's worthwhile to trust vulnerable target groups to go abroad, and all actors involved will benefit of it, and not fear to failure. Not fear to failure. It's possible. We didn't know it in the very beginning, no?
And you learn most when you fail in life,
learn
normally.
a lot in this time, how to manage such a program together with the project operators. Ready to learn. Ready to learn to failure, and not too much expectations. That's I would say.
Yeah. Valeria, what would be your piece of advice?
Maybe first advice that on one side work with a group, because the group can support each other also then they are abroad, but on another side also individual support is crucial. So it's good if your mentors have some additional knowledge or techniques who really can help these vulnerable people to set new objectives, to deal with problems they might occur abroad, so they are better prepared than they go, and that they are also always available for them when they are in the mobility, and important then they come back.
Yeah, absolutely. And we'll hear all about the competencies that are needed of the project operators and these mentors this afternoon. Wojciech.
I think the motivation is crucial. So the projects are very long. So it's a continuous struggle to motivate the participants to avoid dropouts. And I think the mobility phase is vulnerable there, because often participants lose contact with mentor from their country. And my advice is to continue contact by video facilities and so on. And the contact person from transnational partner is also very important at that time. And if such person speaks language of participants, it's ideal. Because these contacts are very important.
Yeah. So you've got to have somebody in country who's always following them and motivating them, and then where the destination country, yes, absolutely, follow up. You can see it's a really bespoke project and very individualized. We're going to take some questions in a moment. Any other advice that you're desperate to give? Because now is the moment.
I would recommend to be not so far away from the project and to know a lot how they work, and to have an understanding of the problems and to give support. We supported we supported the project operators with network meetings, with workshops for the staff, and and to develop together all these things. I think that was a benefit for our program.
Yeah. Valeria, and then Teresa. The advice is coming thick and fast now.
And I also would like to advise to order project evaluation, because it helps to adjust and to know what's working and what are the bottlenecks. So that's an advice I'd like to give.
Still, please take into account national ESF context, because ESF is operating differently in each member state. Of course, it's common background, but how it operates, it differs. So you have to take it into account, and also take into account your national circumstances on the labor market. Maybe in some labor markets you have more dropouts from school. This is not the case in Slovenia, but in our case, people study for a long time, then they stay long-term unemployed. I mean, you have to take into account your national circumstances, and then you adopt the target group to these circumstances, because the need, this concept is very broad and almost anything can come into it. Now, of course, there are some other groups coming, like migrants. There are more and more. Also in Slovenia we had such cases. So, yeah, the labor market situation is changing, and then you have to adapt to these changes. That's why it's also good that projects are more flexible.
Yeah, absolutely. Anastasia, which part of the advice that they've been giving to member states you've just set up a few months ago, what advice resonated with you?
First of all, I find everything very encouraging, and I have a positive impact, and it is very important, all the knowledge that we get ready almost for us, and the help that we will receive from the other member state. And I find very interesting the fact that it's not the numbers of the people who get the job, but as Valeria said, the further step, the encouragement, and as Teresa said, that there are people, the European people, they have the feeling that they are the European people. So the support that we will give in that disadvantaged group. And the importance of the project operator and the pre-phase, so as the skill development, as Valeria said, very important for us to give focus in these elements, because maybe from these elements all the project will depend it.
Yeah, absolutely. Excellent, thank you. Are there any questions coming in on Slido? And if there's any questions in the room, we'll go to those. What are the official indicators of an ALMA project? Output, result? That looks like a very technical question. Can anybody on the panel answer that, or is that one that we will look at this afternoon? This afternoon. Unless there's somebody perhaps in the audience who can answer. I like this one. If we don't reach the success indicators, can they be adjusted, and how? So, Mechthild, are there success indicators that the managing authority sets? Can you change the goalpost halfway through the game, you know? They're obviously good questions because there's some reflection going on here on the panel.
Yeah, depends if the success indicator is to improve the employability, or it depends on the indicators, I would say, but it can be adjusted, I would say, because we are looking how works the projects. We made it. We made it and adjusted the number.
Yeah. There's more microphones on the table. If you want to pick your own microphone, please do.
I would say that the indicators, they are there. If we set them, then they remain in the program.
Okay.
But however, we know that sometimes life happens. So, and it's also a knowledge to fail. So, and we just need to explain what are the bottlenecks, but the indicators, they continue there.
Yeah. Valeria.
Yeah, it depends how you set up the national indicator. So it's the best idea that you set up it on more flexible way, or that you put indicator in such a way that it's not an inclusion, the highest priority.
Which is sort of the second question, I think, how to avoid a creaming effect, taking the cream, the best, which means choosing better participants to meet the indicators. Yes, indeed.
I think here is no danger of creaming effect because this is not a target. This is more in a normal mobility, let's say, without a support, but here is different target group, so not many are staying abroad. There are just few cases, but it's a really great experience for them because they think like this: if I'm able to stay in Germany for 2 months, then I'm also able here. I'm more strong. I will get a job. So they really, also this self-motivation changes, and then it's easier for them to find something. This is very important. So I don't think so. Here is a great danger of creaming. I know that this is now top priority because of the situation in EU labor market, but not in this program.
And you mentioned Germany there, a language that I once tried to learn at university, but good question, how you overcome the language barrier for participants, because yes, you take them to countries where the languages are difficult. Mechthild.
We had in the preparation phase trainings, but not so only learning courses of language. It's boring for these participants, but training and then during the stay abroad too. But that was not the main question, the main obstacle for the participants, because they went to Greece, they went to Spain. Spanish is complicated. They went Scotland with Scottish, it was not the problem. They was very proud to have to learn how to understand and to work with the language. No, we could manage it very well in the project.
Let me take a few questions, if there are, from the audience, and a mic will come round. If you want to raise your hand and ask a question, please do. Otherwise, of course, there is the workshops. Yes, Tomke. Just wait for a microphone so that you're nice and loud and clear so that the remote audience can hear you.
Okay, Tomke from the Czech Republic. I don't really have a question, but I feel like I have to answer the question about the creaming effect.
Okay.
Because I don't think it was answered properly. Because the risk of creaming effect, of course, exists in these projects. But as a managing authorities, if you are going to implement ALMA and publish calls for proposals, you will be the one who is going to decide on the target group. You are going to set up the rules for the target group, and you have to be specific enough to actually try to avoid the creaming effect. Although it is not possible, of course, to get rid of it completely. So creaming effect is there, but it's up to you. And then your cooperation with the project operators for them to be able to actually not be able, but to choose the right target group according to the call for proposals.
Yeah. Tomka has a lot of experience from the managing authority in the Czech Republic and will be in workshop A this afternoon. Other questions in the audience, or perhaps you've got the answers to some of the questions that were posed by our remote audience? Silence is golden. So, thank you very, very much, our remote audience, for your great questions. Thank you, Tomka, for the clarification there. And thank you very much to all of our speakers for sharing their insights. And of course, they are here over coffee and over lunch, and you can ask them more specific questions to your circumstances. But I think there was that lovely key message that came out, that it gives these people a sense that they're EU citizens. And I think that was perhaps one of the added values that's not so tangible, and there isn't a number there, but it's a feeling that stays with you. So thank you very, very much. A round of applause to our speakers here, who will now leave, and it's my pleasure to also if our speakers come off the choreography here, and I will also leave because Fintan Farrell is going to introduce the next session. Fintan, over to you.
Okay, so thank you very much. I think already today we've heard first that there's a very strong and high-level political commitment to this ALMA, both at the European level and within countries. And I think that's really important to help to deliver such a program. Secondly, I think you can see the people in the TLN network, that their enthusiasm, their expertise, and the joy they have from this sort of, from being involved in this. And I think that's a huge source of the success of this program. And thirdly, we heard stories of the participants. And I think that must be the biggest motivation factor to say, yes, it's worth it to make all the efforts to make the best possibility out of this opportunity that ALMA and the TLN Mobility has enabled. So I think we've heard, so I hope by now there's a great motivation and people are really ready to say, okay, let's make it work. And to make that work, one of the tools that's available is the manual, which is a very valuable tool alongside the TLN Mobility Network. And behind that is Bettina, so I'd really like to welcome Bettina to join us here on it. Just to say, yeah, please come. Bettina, her studies have been in German language and philosophy, education, and she also has a master's in business administration. So you can see a breadth of knowledge and experience. She worked for the German Federal Ministry of Labour and Social Affairs from 2002 to 2021. For much of that time, she was the coordinator of the TLN Mobility Network. And I must say that she has been, I think, from the outside, I'm not involved, but from the outside, I've known TLN Mobility, and I know that she is pretty much at the heart of TLN Mobility, and she has put the heart into TLN Mobility. And so I've always really, I think part of why there's so much enthusiasm for this has been the drive that she has brought to it. And fortunately, that talent, knowledge, experience is not lost, and that she has been asked by the Commission to update the manual and to bring forward that expertise as we move in this transitional phase between TLN Mobility, which will continue to operate, and the ALMA network, which will provide the frame for the work going forward. So it's for me a great pleasure to introduce Bettina and to ask her to present the manual. Again, it's possible to put questions and to use the Slido to ask questions and comments. And that's also very useful because even if we don't pick up on them here in the room or during the session, there will be a question and answers kind of document built up by the organizers after the event. And the questions that you have will be very helpful, even if they don't get answered now, for developing that document in the future. So just a reminder that it is useful to ask your questions so that we can build the clarity that will be needed going forward.
Okay. Thank you very much, Fintan, for this very, very kind introduction of me. And good morning to all of you here in the room and joining us online. I'm happy to be here and present the ALMA Manual of Guidance. And maybe I can ask you who already had the chance to have a look at the manual, or who is. The TLN members do not have to raise their hands, but just to see. So, okay, that's quite a number. I don't know about the audience joining us online, but that's a good start for me. So I'm not sure. I can't see the slides properly, so I have to turn a bit. Hope that works with the microphone. So the first question would be, what is the ALMA manual? It's a 50-page document which should help member states and regions in planning and implementing the ALMA initiative. And its purpose is twofold. So for once, it should provide a framework for transnational cooperation under ALMA at the level of program management. So it's addressed to managing authorities and implementing bodies. And the other purpose is to set out quality criteria for all phases of the project. And we've already heard a lot about the challenges and the target group this morning, and how important it is to have a tailor-made support for this target group in order to make these programs successful. So to the background, where does it come from? It's based on the TLN Mobility Coordinated Call and Manual of Guidance, which was developed in 2013 and 14 by then 15 member states and regions who wanted to implement, to implement mobility measures for disadvantaged young people. So when the TLN manual was published in 2014, only the practical experience from the EDA program was available. Now we are in a much better situation because we can build now upon experience of 9 TLN mobility member programs launched by partners since then. And these experience and lessons learned are also included in the new ALMA manual. As to the content, on the content side, it has six chapters and a foreword from Joost Korte, Director General of DG Employment, Social Affairs and Inclusion. It's structured like the first section is some introduction in the theme. Section 2 to 5 focus on the coordination of program management. And section 6 then focuses on quality criteria for all phases of the project cycle. So in the following 15 to 20 minutes, I will go through these sections. Don't go into them into detail, of course, but point out key aspects of each of the section. And I'm sure you will recognize much of what I will say because it has been said during this morning in the presentations and during the panel discussion. So the first chapter refers to the ALMA initiative, the objective and specific feature. Just to stress once again, it's an active inclusion measure. It's not about the mobility. Mobility is only a part of it. It's an active inclusion measure, including or with the work-related learning experience abroad for disadvantaged needs, and it's embedded in a whole project cycle. The key elements you can see right on the top. It's mostly just selection preparation. It's one of the features. They are sent in groups, and the pedagogical support for participants before, during, and after stay abroad. Last not least, it refers to the legal basis, which Fabienne has explained earlier. So we've heard a lot about the target group, that it's most disadvantaged young people, aged 18 to 29. So maybe it's worthwhile to mention that disadvantaged is a complex notion which can comprise many different groups of participants and communities, but what most of them have in common is this poor self-confidence and weak motivation, the negative perception of education and training, and little awareness of their own potential. So, and this, as Fabienne has already explained, very often leads to a vicious circle with which the ALMA initiative wants to intercept and turn into a virtuous circle. And Commissioner Schmidt in the morning already mentioned the transformative change which participants go through when taking part in these mobility programs. But as Valeria mentioned earlier just before in the panel, it also, of course, depends on the labor market situation, so the target group and who is disadvantaged, or who is far from the labor market, or in terms of having difficulties to access the labor market, also depends very much on the labor market in the specific country at that moment. The third section is focusing on key elements for the program implementation cycle. So it's addressing very much, again, managing authorities, implementing bodies. So the program is implemented under the ESF Plus operational programs 2021 till 2027. What is worthwhile to mention is that managing authorities are quite flexible in terms of designing these programs. So they can have a flexible program structure. The duration can be flexible, and also the application structure. And from the previous TLN Mobility programs, we know that there were very different approaches taken by TLN partners. So, for instance, Catalonia had calls running also for 1 year, and then published every new year a new call. In Poland and Sweden, it was about 2 years, and in Germany and Slovenia had programs for 4 years or 5 years. It's also a question how many projects you have. So there are also very different approaches taken by TLN members. For instance, with Slovenia, and we've heard that this morning, is that was one project implemented by the Public Employment Services. Other member states and Germany had around 30 projects implementing the program. So that also depends on the decision of the managing authority and the implementing body, and has to take into account the situation in the specific country. What is important to point out is that applications can be submitted only for sending projects, not for receiving, and not for hosting. And I will explain that in the next slide a bit more in detail. Then applications, according to that, can be with or without a transnational partner, and I will come back to that in section 4. So here you see a diagram on the structure for only sending projects, and you can see that the managing authority in the member state has only a grant agreement with the project on the ground, sending participants to any other country. There is no contract from the managing authority with the receiving project operator. There's also no contract between the managing authority from the sending project to the managing authority for the receiving. It's only, the grant agreement only is for the sending project, and that means that the project, on project level, they have to make sure that this transnational cooperation works. And that's why this partnership agreement, this transnational partnership agreement, is so important, because the sending project has to ensure that, that the host organization delivers all the services which are needed for the stay abroad. The same is true for reciprocal projects. So if there are, is also the hosting organization has only, is taking part on a program in sending participants, they have only a relationship, legal relationship to their managing authority. There's no one between the two managing authorities, and there's only the transnational partnership agreement is only to be concluded by the two projects. Section 4 refers then to the implementation structures required on regional and national level if you want to carry out this program. It refers to the type of organization which can apply, the role of partnerships and strategic networks. It has a section on, or paragraph on, selection and award criteria, and I will come back to that later in chapter 6, where I will explain or give an overview about the quality criteria for the carrying out by projects, of the program by projects. As to transnational partners, operational partnership with at least one transnational partner, and it was mentioned this morning, of course, you can have more transnational partners, especially if projects are experienced. So in Germany, I know that some projects had more than one transnational partner, but maybe it would be a good start to start with only one. And then you see how it works and what your connections are, because it's also a question of the experience of project operators if they have contacts to other member states. And Anastasia was mentioning Equal, for instance, community initiative Equal, running till 2006. And so the German projects from the very first round had already connections to partners from this community initiative. But maybe in countries who joined the ESF later or have no so much experience with Equal, it's more difficult to find those transnational partners. And there, of course, the program has to reflect the principle of equal opportunities on non-discrimination. As to the implementation, application process, it's possible, it's up to member states if they require applications already with a transnational partner, so that the project has to hand in either a letter of intent or maybe even an agreement, or if they leave that open and also accept applications without a transnational partner, where the project then has to find the transnational partner within a certain time frame, maybe the first 3 months after the application has been approved. The main difference is that if you are applying without a transnational partner, any costs incurred for the partner search normally can't be reimbursed, because costs can only be reimbursed after the submission or even the approval of the project. To facilitate the partner search, and Paul mentioned that before, there is a TLN Mobility Partner Search database, at the moment, including all the current projects which are still in place from the TLN Mobility programs. It's available at the public section of the TLN website, and as we've heard from Fabienne this morning, this database will be updated with new projects as soon as these new projects are in place. Again, practices from TLN partners show different approaches in this respect. Germany, for instance, left it open if they didn't mention it in their call. For Czech Republic, for instance, it was obligatory that they already had a transnational partner and had to send in some letter of intent or even an agreement. So this, again, is up to managing authorities to decide. So coordination of program management also means a shared understanding of eligibility of costs. And these can be defined in terms of eligible activities, for instance. So you have here partner search, project preparation, participant recruitment, selection and preparation, stay abroad and follow up. And in Annex 2 of the manual, you will find a whole range of costs to be taken into account for those measures, because some of them should be reflected already in the call which you are going to launch. So it would be good for the planning to be aware of what projects then have to cover with this program, and then make sure that the costs for that are eligible. To the split of costs, sending country covers all costs for their participants at home and in the host country. And it's strongly recommended to use simplified cost options. And I must say, when the manual was first published in 2014, TLN Mobility had to put a lot of efforts in calculating these costs and negotiating them with their financial ministries. Now we are in a much, much better position, because the EC is going to prepare is working on a delegated act on EU level simplified cost options for ALMA, and you will hear more about that in workshop C. So the 6th chapter focuses on quality standards for all project phases of the project. And you can see there this, I don't know if you can see it clearly, the project cycle right on the top. But it's in the manual, and all the diagrams and pictures I'm using in my presentation are taken from the manual. So you will find them there when going through that. So the phases, the main phases are project setup management, participant recruitment and selection, then the participant preparation, the stay abroad, and the follow-up. It's a quite extensive section here, going more than 20 pages, I think. It's on project level, but I would encourage managing authorities and implementing bodies to also have a look at it, because they have to know what to care for then for the projects, for the program which the projects then have to implement, and to cover the costs of this. It defines minimum quality standards for all phases, and provides further specifications and recommendations, and also gives examples of different approaches on specific activities and actions. The main elements, starting with the project setup and management, so the main elements for the project setup are the partnership, and we've heard about this during the morning again. Then the transnational partnership agreement and monitoring evaluation concepts. So I will go a bit more in detail on the first two, partnership and transnational agreement, because monitoring evaluation concepts are not specific for this kind of mobility measures, but apply to all ESF projects. But nevertheless, there is a paragraph on this in the manual as well. So we have heard that one of the challenges is reach out to this target group. So it's important to have the right partners on board. And this also applies to the preparation phase and stay abroad and follow up. So for the challenges to reach out, we've heard that there are different approaches as well, again, depending on the labor market system in the countries. So for instance, in Slovenia, in Catalonia, the measure was implemented by the PES, Public Employment Service themselves. In Germany, it was obligatory to include the Public Employment Service. In Czech Republic, it was more important that youth organizations who had the best contact to this target group were project operators. So again, the definition of how this partnership should be composed depends on the country, but it's important anyway. So, and you will hear about this more in the workshop A this afternoon. So next challenge was how to involve companies and employers, and we've heard about that, and this of course was a question, has been a question during all the lifetime here of TLN Mobility, because it's once important for the finding a placement, so how can transnational partners involve companies, but it's only important for the follow-up phase then. And this again speaks for this partnership principle at the ground, so at the sending country. So the better this partnership, the better the relations to other relevant labor market actors, so the more easy is then the integration of the participants in the follow-up phase. As to transnational cooperation, I've already said that sending this target group abroad then requires a very reliable transnational partnership. Here are some key elements that project operators from previous TLN programs pointed out, and you see them on the left side. Very important are written agreements, and I've explained that with the structure that the grant agreement goes only for the sending project, and the sending project has to make sure that this transnational partnership works. So this written agreement is an important key issue, and a detailed example you will find in Annex 1 of the manual. And you will hear more about this aspect in Workshop B this afternoon. For the recruitment, it was already mentioned several times that reach out can be a challenge, but also that, and Mechthild mentioned that, don't see themselves as natural participants to this measure. So it also needs a lot of encouraging participants and taking their low self-confidence and self-esteem into account. For reach out, you can use community gatekeepers, for instance, and the manual shows the range of methods that are appropriate then for the target group and encourage, motivate, and stimulate the target group to participate. Participant selection means to identify those participants who, with the right support, will benefit from participation and can cope with the stay abroad, taking into account that even if they might find it challenging, during the preparation you find out that it would be very beneficial for them. So this is also a bit linked to this creaming aspect and the danger of creaming. So project operators have to be aware that maybe not from the beginning they think, well, that's the ideal candidate, but have to take into account the specific history of target groups and that they don't see themselves not naturally as participants. They also are likely to lack formal qualifications, so project operators would need non-traditional selection procedures and methods to reveal the non-academic competences and potential of participants. So the blue box shows an example, for instance, of key questions also taken from the manual and reflecting the experience. For the participant preparation, I'm not going into detail in that. It's just that you see that it also has some key points. It's a very extensive section there. And what I wanted to point out is the value of self-assessment. So work jointly together with the participant so that he feels then ownership and can, it's much more explained in the manual as well. Same goes for the stay abroad and the follow-up. It's a structured program for the stay abroad and for the follow-up, again, working out recording the participants' progress and provide support to participants after the stay abroad and preparing employers then to provide employment for participants, to convince them and sensitize them for the potential of these participants. Okay, last section, guidance. There's a lot of support available. We've heard about the TLN Mobility support. So, and also from the EU, on EU level, there will be a central coordination unit to support member states and regions in implementing ALMA. And Fabienne already got into more detail in this. And last not least, the manual also refers to a number of further resources and information. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you very much. And you can see it's a huge source of support for the people who will have to follow up and implement the project. Just for the people who are in the room, you will have a chance to follow all of this in the workshops in the afternoon, that start in the afternoon, and to ask questions on all of the areas. We'll just take a quick check to see some questions coming in on the Slido. So I'm just reading them here. Does the EC have additional measures for initiative ALMA in regional programs, apart from the funds we already provided under ESF+? A very technical question. And as I said, the value of some of these questions is that they might help to form the questions and answers document that will be prepared after this. So if there isn't, like I said this morning, no need to try make up an answer. There will be time to give answers to some of these questions. There's a question here which is probably much more easy to answer, which is how to include successful receiving organizations in the partner search database. Can you take that question?
Yeah. We had this discussion during the TLN mobility meetings for a long time. The problem is that all those projects listed in the TLN partner search database are quality checked because they had been approved by a managing authority. So how will you ensure then this quality aspect if you include only receiving projects for that? That was the reason why we decided then to have only those on the database which have been approved by managing authority and therefore are quality checked.
Okay. I don't know if there's further questions coming in on the slide, but we're right on time. We shortly will be ending the live streaming, so I hope the people online have really got a lot of valuable information. You heard earlier the contacts for the TLN Mobility Network so that you're able to follow up. And as I said, for the people in the room, we'll have loads of questions and loads of opportunities to go deeper in the elements that have been presented by Bettina in the workshops that will begin this afternoon. Just to remember that you should be back in this room at 2:30. And maybe just to say, it's probably signing off on the live streaming now to wave or say goodbye, to say have a good day and enjoy the afternoon. And for the people who are here, you have the opportunity to enjoy lunch. And to get to the room where the lunch is, if you go back to where you registered this morning, and then you will continue on from there. There will be people there to help you. If the room is behind that room. So if you get to the room where you registered this morning, you will find people who will help with it. And lastly, a big thanks to Bettina for her presentation and for all the work that she has done to get us to this stage and to help us to move to the next stage. So enjoy lunch and thank you very much.